Have you checked the children? Show a little match sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Fuego here.
Finally sitting down to cover a movie that was one of, frankly, my top 6 of the year 2020, and it was one of those late contenders. It seems as though every single year, Fuego, you and I try and catch up with a bunch of movies that we didn't see, and inevitably one or two or more of those movies end up on our top list because we just didn't get around to them. But it just so happens that this one actually was released for the first time about 3 weeks before the end of the year, and it just so happens that it was so good that I still had to include it in my top 6 of 2020, and we're talking about Hunter x Hunter. Now, we did talk briefly about it during the Best Of episode that we put together, but this is us going more in depth in our usual style, which, you know, is more like a video podcast until our relaunch coming up in the near future. But I absolutely loved this movie when I first watched it, so much so that I was like, everyone else in our horror show thread, I was like, you guys gotta watch this if you can get a moment to. It is so worth your time.
And so not what you would expect.
So not what you would expect, and with the biggest punch in the face last 10 to 15 minutes that, you know, any movie has delivered in recent years. So I utterly enjoyed my socks off in this movie, Fuego. What about you?
Yeah, man. Sean Linden directed the hell out of this movie. Great screenplay writer as well in that regard. Camille Sullivan's performance. I mean, we've got great stuff from both Devon Sawa and Nick Stahl, who we saw a lot in the 90s and the early 2000s. They're not as recognizable now. They've got, less
I
of that
did not recognize Devon Sawa.
Boyish handsomeness or whatever you want to call it. Now they have this gritty chiseledness to themselves. Mm-hmm. Sawa especially, man. His performance is great, but Camille really, as the mother in this situation, she kills it without spoiling it. If we're talking about finale sort of stuff, and just how she has to rise to the occasion much more so than her daughter, who is initially so enamored with what her father does, and the mother is a little bit more standoffish and passive or whatever. But her performance, her metamorphosis, just her becoming as a character is a sight to behold. This movie's brutal. I'm not gonna beat around the bush about that, but damn was it good. It would have been in contention for my 6. We were trying to have just a nice diverse selection, even though you and Robert did what you and I usually do, and
kind of divvy up. We basically figured out the top 17 movies and divvied them up amongst ourselves.
Which is fine, But
so this would have made your top 6, you think?
It would have been in significant contention, man. I mean, narrowing it down to 6 when you've watched hundreds of films in a year. I know. But when I see Jason Smith doing top 20 of 20, I'm just like, whatever. Shout out to Sinister.
We're doing the hard work here at the Horror Show,
as opposed to reviewing everything that comes out. But okay, so story though about this flick. Do you want me to cover it or should you?
So I'll get it started, and you can kind of pick up where I leave off, so to speak. The movie starts off. It's a family sort of drama taking place in the remote woods, in a portion of the woods that is generally off limits to most people. There's this family that has kind of staked a claim, and they are living off the land, and it's a father, the daughter, and the mother, and the daughter is coming of age and is wanting to kind of sprout her wings and learn new things and, be on her own and stuff like that. And there are inherent dangers in the immediate vicinity, both natural and
potentially more.
Yeah. Or potentially just really screwed up humans.
Yeah, and that's the big thing about this movie, is that with a title like Hunter x Hunter, you're not necessarily sure, and with there's a wolf prominently shown in the poster art with this.
I legitimately thought it was going to be a werewolf movie.
Which I guess that's the one mild spoiler we will give you. I guess is it's not
a werewolf.
It's not a werewolf per se, but there's definitely
Wolves, yes.
Yeah,
Where
yes,
variety? No.
Yeah, now that's where you wonder, is it going to be like the Grey, or is it going to be something drastically different, the inherent evil of people and stuff, or maybe a combination?
The second one.
Yeah, exactly. But that's where, I mean, this story's shown, man, and especially for me in the fact that it spotlit the impoverished, just tough, and just, you're always on the brink when you're living on the fringe like this family is, and it causes contention, and we'll get more so into just the great family dynamic, or I mean, it's greatly acted, but the friction and the tension and all that stuff amongst all of them. So, yeah, there is a wolf that, or a presumed wolf that is doing some dastardly stuff. We have Devon Sawa. He is this father who is kind of trying to show his younger daughter the ropes, and the mother is less about having, you know, her daughter,
her only daughter,
yeah, her only daughter be
only
involved.
Child, no less.
Yeah, exactly. Her only child be involved with, you know, this sort of potential danger, and you know, father is like, I have to actually go out and try to, you know, like take this presumed killer out that is acting kind of rogue and just kind of overstepping its boundaries more so than you would think from like a bear or a wolf or the sort of stuff they see in the Northwest. You get the vibe they've been living in this area for a while, off the grid and whatnot. So yeah, after Sawa's character disappears though, or doesn't disappear, he just goes off to try to take care of business. That's where you get this separate dynamic with the mother and the daughter, and there is a person who shows up that plays into the third act that we can't really give too many spoilers about, but that's where you start to really figure out what this movie is actually all about.
Mm-hmm. And what I gotta say about it, in the sort of still kind of in the overallness of it, is it was tense as
Very
all
much so.
hell. It was
Yeah.
definitely more thriller than horror, but
The
it
third act,
definitely
though.
veers into the horror territory in the third act, which is why I think it's absolutely worth a discussion here on the horror show. But yeah, I mean, that's the long and short of the story, and I gotta say, I was enthralled by it. It is... I tend to be a fan of nature thrillers.
Yeah.
Right? Thrillers that involve really gorgeous cinematography,
Whether the woods or
in
the
the
ocean
woods or the
or-
ocean or the
yeah.
desert even, you
Yeah.
know, like nature is a formidable foe in and of itself.
And also not being on a soundstage, being very obviously on location and just beautifully scouted locales. And there's something to say about actually going rogue and, you know, like, you know, remote and stuff with that sort of approach, which I always appreciate too.
But this came off very authentic the whole
did.
way through. And so I love movies that do that, and especially because, you know, I'm here from Phoenix, Arizona. I'm a native, and we don't get to be in this sort of climate very often. We can
Unless
go
we drive
2
really
hours
far
north.
yeah.
Well, really far, 2 hours.
Yeah,
in
I
the
guess.
Flagstaff, we can get
Yeah.
some snow during the wintertime. But, you know, this is not our normal thing, so it is easy for us to, you know, get into the mindset of these characters because we're not used to it. So we're like, oh, that must be how it is. Oh my God, it's terrifying.
And also, without spoiling, legitimately one of the most gnarly finales of any thriller horror film this year.
Marsha, I think, would really like this movie.
As far as a vengeance aspect that transpires,
As far as
yeah.
not only that, but what ultimately is going on.
Yeah.
Remember what she is into the most in the horror genre, and fans of the show will know what I'm talking
It's become
about.
more apparent as the years have gone on, yeah.
With absolutely no consideration to what I'm just talking about. We
I
just
think
put up
Susie
our
would have been
review
down
of
for
the
it, too.
Night Stalker serial killer series that Marsha and Susie just reviewed in their new binge-worthy segment of the channel, and yeah, has absolutely nothing to do with the possibility of serial killerness or anything like that. I promise. So Fuego,
Yeah.
acting-wise.
Acting-wise, tremendous. I mean, back to Our Lady Lead, her arc, her transformation, as I mentioned earlier, and just really rising to the occasion, whether it's against a wolf or the other stuff that she has to face within this narrative, man. I mean, we are talking Mama Bear just growing over the course of the film. Really
Mama
coming
Bear
out of
turning
her
into
shell.
a mama fucking shark.
The Mama Monster in some ways, like
You're not wrong.
holy
You're
shizzle,
not
man.
wrong.
And I have to say, like, whether it's Nick Stahl or Devon Sawa, once again, you know, they play drastically different types of characters, in this, but the fact that both of those guys, I mean, Stahl had a little bit of edge. I actually liked him in, whether it was Disturbing Behavior or Terminator 3.
Terminator 3 is the only thing I knew him from immediately.
Yeah. He was the sub-friend in,
he was
in
new
Disturbing
John Connor.
Behavior. He was in 3. He was the one with, Claire Danes at the very end of the movie
Juliet.
where they were stuck in the bunker. Yeah, Juliet.
She's forever Juliet, and Leonardo DiCaprio's forever Romeo.
This is true.
This guy's forever from Terminator 3.
Yeah, which I actually think Terminator 3 is underrated, but that's a side note.
You just like the Dominatrix. Or the Terminatrix, sorry.
Well, hey, man. It was like if we got 7 of 9 and she was actually... Anyway.
You're not wrong.
It's not too far off. But yeah, Stahl is playing not the type of role I was expecting from him, and so he impressed me. The young actress, actually, who plays the daughter, was also very solid. I love the connection with Sawa as her father, and the fact that she wanted so desperately to follow in the footsteps, and yet he was still trying to be protective and shield her from the external forces, both of nature and of whatever creatures may be out there. So I thought that was a good dynamic. I don't know, man. I can't, aside from maybe the local sheriff force, I thought maybe if there's a weak point, their acting, there's 2 characters in particular, one male and one female, I thought that they were just okay, but the family and Stahl's character, who kind of injects himself into the situation, those 4 were, I don't really have any criticisms at all.
I agree. I feel like they did such a good job that, quite frankly, I mean, I went into this just... So the nice thing about
low
being
expectations. I mean, you didn't know what to expect.
A horror
right?
channel is that there's I am in a lot of horror Facebook groups and horror other groups and stuff like that where I get to see people talking about horror movies as they happen. Like
I try so hard not to see other people's opinions.
Well, but they'll say, "Oh, this movie's great. This movie's great," and this was one of those movies that a couple people were talking about. Like, this movie delivers, and I was like, "All right, let me give it a try." And I gave it a try without knowing anything about it, and I was super pleased, and a lot of that comes down to the acting.
True.
And so much so that when I finished the movie, I put in our collective horror show Facebook thread, like, guys, this movie is such a worthwhile movie, and then someone's like, yeah, I hear Devon Sawa's great, and I was like,
I didn't
even realize that Devon Sawa was in the movie until you just said that.
The end credits you told me you saw.
Yeah, I was like, that's so weird. But, looking back, sure, but that's how convincing the acting of the main 4 players of the movie was.
Yeah.
And I adored it, quite frankly. And then the gore that we got when we got it, I think, was completely on point. The effects were totally convincing and disturbing.
One in particular, man.
In a very real world way.
Yeah.
Like, that's the nice thing. It is not a fantastical horror gore situation. It is
grounded.
A very, like you said, grounded horror gore situation that they throw all their effects into, and damn if it's not, like, really disturbing.
Yeah, if you've seen this movie as we continue along, practical and effects and just the way it's been shot and stuff, the spotlight segment that we are referring to, and we're talking like blinking of eyes is like the big thing after something so monumental has transpired, and it's also with the way this was shot within the finale, and this is not spoiling things, but it at least gives my impression of the brilliance of this. And I know you and I talked about this off camera a couple weeks ago before I returned. It's about the one thing they don't show, and then the other thing they go for and show. Man, it's such a dichotomy and such a just drastic decision, like, and yet it just had so much more impact because of that. And you just see a character's reaction to something that's happened, and then in turn you see their reaction with what they do to what happened. And in some ways it kind of made the movie for me, not to discount anything else that happened in the preceding like 90 something minutes or whatever, but the payoff in this film is where it's at without hyping it up too much. I don't want to make the burden of expectation as you guys all know.
No,
I guess.
No, but you're right. You're not wrong to hype that up. And I seriously doubt that anyone that watches this movie based on our recommendation that gets as far as the ending, I doubt there's a single person that would not be pleased with how they see the movie finishing up by that point. You know what I mean? In spite of the fact that we've said what we have. You know what I mean? Like,
and also
it's that good of a movie and that good of an ending that even though we've been like, the movie's so good, the ending is so good, you're still going to be happy. Because what it is...
I don't even know if I would say good ending, but
satisfying.
Yeah, jinx. But no,
I was just going to say, one of the most satisfying horror movies to come out in recent memory.
Yeah, indeed. Agreed. And, you know,
disturbing, yes.
Yeah.
Satisfying, oh, yes.
I still want to mention an instance with a bear trap when we're talking effects, because I thought that was really, really well done, even if I was a little more ho-hum on the performance of that character. But
didn't care about that. It was that character was fine, but yeah, that moment was very
grisly. Yeah.
Grisly? Is that what you're saying? Grisly? Like steak?
Yeah. But back to the finale we were talking about. That's
talking about.
Yeah, but the music in that finale is a weird, almost like Middle Eastern-y kind of like melody that they use, and the sound design within it, and the fact that they cut out all the sound of what's actually going on, and then they just have this score that they hit, and it just nails the mood even more so. It elevated the impact of everything that we see in those last couple minutes so much for me, especially when there's like some law enforcement coming in, and, you know, without getting too into it. But I actually rewatched that scene a couple times because I'm kind of a crazoid, and also because I liked that score so very much, man. It just had that cathartic little, you know, icing on top exclamation point to everything else. It's a good score, and, you know, sound design or lack thereof can often do.
True. Yeah, sound design was fantastic in this. It only served the movie itself. The actual score was minimalistic and yet effective.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this movie is truly a sight to behold, and I will absolutely add it to my Blu-ray collection.
Yeah, I think
100%.
Yeah.
Just like I want to add The Wind. I haven't gotten around to finding a Blu-ray of The Wind, but like these are movies that are slow burns, but such great, ultimately great horror movies to stick with.
Yeah, as far as like some of my favorite endings of films that came out in 2020, like this and The Lodge might be my two favorite finales. As far as slow burn stuff goes on, Underwater's got a great finale
too, dude. Oh, see why we're co-hosts?
Yeah, that's why we've been doing this together for a while.
All right, guys, so I think that's going to cover it for our, as non-spoilery as we could make it, thoughts on Hunter x Hunter. Definitely make time to check this out. Whether you want to wait until it's available on, you know, free VOD, whatever, or free
streaming service of some sort, Shudder
or
whatever.
I would recommend just going ahead and shelling out the $5 or $6 it would take to rent it on HD on like Prime Video or whatever.
Agreed.
Guys, it's that worth it. It really truly is. So check it out at your disposal. Let us know what your thoughts are on the movie if you have watched it in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, click the like button and subscribe for more videos like it. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel more directly. Until next time, though, I've been Cecil Laird.
And gracias a Jaime and Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.